Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, if we desire to avoid insult, we must be able to repel it. If we desire to secure peace, one of the most powerful instruments of our rising prosperity, it must be known that we are at all times ready for war. I admit I am heartsick. I am absolutely heartsick about what is going on and what is going to happen. When a storm comes in, there are the first few drops of water. The wind rises, and then more drops come. And then before long, it's a deluge. If it stopped with the drops, it wouldn't be a storm. But very rarely do you have just a wall of water march in. What we're seeing in Baltimore, what we saw in Ferguson, it's the drops. I'm telling you, it's the raindrops. Now let's look at a few different angles of this. I'm going to start with some of the easy ones and then move on to the ones that are going to be a little bit more painful. The easy ones are that in some circumstances, it's clear that there has been violence from police against young black men. All right? That really is a no-brainer. That man being choked out in New York City, Staten Island, I believe, that was horrifying. What happened to this young man in Baltimore? Gray, we don't know what happened. How did he get a severed spinal or severe spine injury in police custody and then die a week later? There are no answers forthcoming yet. Was excessive force used? So there have been times that there has been excessive force used by police officers. And I don't want to live in a police state. You probably don't want to live in a police state. But we have, so that's an easy one. But here's the next one that's a little bit more difficult. That the government of the United States of America is largely responsible for having created this problem with the welfare state. Remember with me that for decades, young women of any color were allowed to get more money, were given more money from the government in welfare checks, food stamps, different subsidies, based upon how many children they had. The more children, the more money. And then the checks and the money were reduced if she got married. Okay? This abominable, wretched evil of stealing from some people to give to another, this redistribution of wealth, had a horrific effect on the African American family. If you look at the statistics from the 50s back, yes, there was out of wedlock births going on in the African American community, as in the white and as in the Hispanic, but nothing like we see now. And the so-called war on poverty by Johnson and his co-belligerents was aimed at the African American community. Section 8 housing. I was driving through a major city yesterday, seeing government housing. It's wretched. It's horrific. There are fences. It looks like a war zone. And the vast majority of the people in those buildings are African American, and the children are being raised by a mom and not a dad. A dad is not present under the roof. And so you have this scenario where young boys, fatherless boys, are either they know their dad or they don't. Let's say that they do know their dad. And let's say that he's shiftless. Let's say that he's going from woman to woman. Let's say that he has children by different women and he has this fatherless child. What example does this boy have? The African American community is imploding in part because of fatherless boys. And then these boys find camaraderie, find leadership, find a sense of belonging where? In gangs. Is this such a mystery to people? The problem is this. You see, the politically correct want to say, you can't profile. You can't profile. It's discrimination. It's bigotry. It's racism. No, it's a statistical reality. So much so that Jesse Jackson said the words when he's walking down the street at night and he hears footsteps behind him and he turns around and looks. He's relieved when he sees that it's not a black male. I've got to take a break. We're going to keep coming at this. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life.